Blake only half mad though, so it's all good.
All right, man.
WarRoomSports.com. Get that mobile app.
What's going on, everybody out there in the War Room family? Yo, this is another episode of Inside the War Room. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Dev. I got B. Austin at the round table.
Yo, Donald Sterling's girlfriend. Yo, come over back to the real side, man. We get you right, yo. Leave them people alone.
And I got the homie Jimmy.
Yo, let's just go, man. I ain't even got no intro today, man. I got something to get off my chest. Pause.
No doubt. And in the midst of the NBA playoffs, we're here to talk about none other than what everybody else is talking about right now. Clippers owner Donald Sterling and his comments made in a private phone conversation with his young girlfriend. This whole situation, fellas, has caused an uproar in the league, outside of the league. Social media has basically turned on its head. I hope Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and everybody has enough bandwidth and whatever else they need to keep everything afloat. But this is a situation, I don't know. I know you fellas, we talked about it off air. I know you aren't really surprised, but it's something that, needs to be addressed. So we're going to address it. So if anybody out there has been living under a rock the past 24 hours, I'll read you some of the comments that that came out in the original snippets that TMZ laid out. Later on, there was another article put out by Deadspin that has some more audio that has even more than what I'm about to read you here. But here are some of the comments that Donald Sterling made to his girlfriend on a telephone call, and it all stemmed from her taking a photo with Magic Johnson and dropping it on her Instagram page. Quote, "It bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people. Do you have to?" Next comment, "You can sleep with them, you can bring them in, you can do whatever you want. The little I ask is you not promote it on that being Instagram, and not to bring them to my games." Next quote, "I'm just saying, in your lousy effing Instagrams, you don't have to have yourself walking with black people." Next quote, "Don't put him," meaning Magic Johnson, "on an Instagram for the world to have to see, so they have to call me, and don't bring him to my games." First of all, I'll let you guys know, she doesn't really know Magic Johnson personally. She saw somebody she admired, and she took a photo with him. So I don't really know what he's talking about there. So those are the quotes that kind of set off the firestorm of everybody talking about race relations in sports and race relations in America again. One note before we get started, I don't know if you all knew, but we all knew that Donald Sterling kind of has a history of alleged racist behavior. I remember a few years back, Elgin Baylor, he used to be the general manager of the Clippers, he had a suit against Donald Sterling claiming that he had racist discriminatory practices.
Yeah, discrimination.
Yeah, I think he was saying race and age discrimination going on within the organization, and a jury basically told Elgin Baylor FOH. I wonder now, after hearing hearing these tapes, I wonder what that jury feels now. Fellas, what are your thoughts on this, man?
Well, before I go in, I just want to send a shout out to the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, who somehow released its awards, and it was noted that Donald Sterling was going to win the Lifetime Achievement Award. And I just want to say that if you're doing your due diligence on Donald Sterling and you know what he is and who he is and what he's about, then a prestigious organization such as the NAACP in all its glory and what it was intended to do and be for this country, both black people, white people, and all peoples of all colors, they should know better than to give this award to him prior to this even happening or coming out. I want Brother Jimmy to touch on some of these other quotes because it gets deeper and it gets worse than what Devin just read to you guys.
Yeah.
Like it goes real deep here.
Yeah,
So,
I
Jimmy,
can
go ahead.
Yeah, I can give you some other quotes, but the first thing I want to say is this. I had a lot of thoughts come across my mind when this whole story broke. For one, It wasn't shocking at all because with the whole with Donald Sterling's history,
we are not shocked.
No, I mean we're not shocked.
I'm not surprised at all.
We're not shocked. We're not shocked for one because we live in America. We're actually out there, trying to make a difference, and we're in the community, so we know what really goes on. A lot of our fans across all mediums say a lot of times that we're race baiters. We bring up race too much in relation to sports, but race matters. In the words of Cornel West, race matters, and it's a reality. I don't care whether we're talking about Riley Cooper, Donald Sterling. It's always going to be a factor.
Trayvon Martin.
Yeah, with that being said, right, here's the thing. I remember when Elgin Baylor, to talk about Dev's point, brought that suit. Initially, I laughed because Elgin Baylor didn't do a great job in terms of building the Clippers. So I was like, let me find out he's trying to make an excuse. So instead of just knocking Elgin Baylor, although I did knock him at the time, but I did do some research back then, and I found all kinds of information about Donald Sterling being racist. I remember Baron Davis saying that when he played for the Clippers, and this is before all this dropped. Baron Davis said that he would make racist remarks sitting courtside to him and call him all kinds of names. And people thought Baron Davis was crazy. Right. I remember at the time when I went and looked up the actual lawsuit that he had with the tenants where he wouldn't rent to black people. He is actually on the record. He's on the record in court saying that black people attract vermins, therefore he wouldn't rent to them. Like, these are some of the things, and this information is out there. So with that being said, this wasn't shocking to me. There are a lot of thoughts, but B. Austin, I'm gonna give you some more of the information that you asked. More of the transcript dropped. There's an actual extended version of the tape. I don't want to get into too much of it, but he did.
Just give us a couple. Just give us a few.
I mean, he basically says this. I support them. I give them food and clothes and cars and houses. Who gives it to them? Does someone else give it to them? Do I know that I have? Who makes the game? Do I make the game or do they make the game? Is there 30 owners that created the league? He's basically saying, listen, I'm not racist because I help put food on the table.
I give black people jobs.
You sound like
Massa Reynolds.
I let them pick cotton.
That's what I was doing. You sound like Massa Reynolds, man. And it's funny because I saw David West make a comment, and I thought the same thing, but he articulated it very well, saying that this is sort of like the plantation mentality where, I can sleep with their women if I want to, but they have to go do the work. They can't come in the house, because the fact of the matter is she's African American
and
Mexican. So that's just a little bit of the newer quotes. You can go to Deadspin and read all the quotes because there's an extended version of the tape. And I'll let you gentlemen talk about it. But the one thing I want to say is this: my immediate thoughts when I heard it was like, wow, the happiest man today is David Stern because he doesn't have to deal with it. I thought about all the people who come to our pages, whether it be Twitter or Facebook, telling us that we live in a post-racial society. I got a laugh out of that. Yeah, pretty much. I thought about how in this country we are scared to have a conversation on race. And that's not only people who are white or who are Asian. Even some of us African Americans are scared to have this conversation. Here's something else I thought about. I throw this out there as well. If these were gay slurs, how would this have been treated? If he was on tape saying these things about, people who live an alternative lifestyle, what would the reaction have been in today's climate? That came across my mind. Also, all the talk of the team boycotting games, I have a whole lot of thoughts on that, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And also, like I said, the Elgin Baylor and Baron Davis quotes, those all immediately came to mind. So this thing conjured up a lot of thoughts for me, and it created a lot of great dialogue, and that dialogue is necessary and needed. But B. Austin, what do you have some thoughts?
The first thing that crossed my mind, as with my brothers, was why is everybody so shocked? Why is everybody so shocked and appalled and oh my God? And again, I have to echo Jim Browski's sentiments. Like, we have a social media presence and community that is very supportive, that is very large, it's very interactive, it's tight-knit. We engage in a lot of conversations, and race is a prevalent theme. It's a prevalent topic that comes up. I call it a subtopic because it doesn't even necessarily have to be a conversation directed towards race, but it'll always rear its ugly head in sports. Why is that? Sports is a microcosm of society. And race and racism, prejudice, ethnocentrism, a lack of empathy, all of these things dealing with interhuman relationships.
Classism.
Classism. Those things are all here. And the problem with our society today is we like to move past things. We like to move past things without acknowledging, the history behind things and what it's doing to people. We don't like to accept responsibility for certain things, and there's no accountability. So when those of us who are in a position where personally we don't have what we feel are hateful thoughts towards other human beings, and we get to a point where we're tired of hearing these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
We don't
Exactly.
want to deal, so we want to move past it. And then guess what? Donald Sterling's, plural, because he's representative of a whole generation and a whole group of people who are able to hide and mask their feelings temporarily, but these things happen. Think of the gentleman, Ted, Bundy, the dude down in Texas.
Farmer dude.
Yeah,
The
rancher guy down in Texas. Things like this rear their ugly head because we've never truly had the dialogue, particularly with this generation, the 90s, the 2000s. This generation, we've kind of moved past, swept it under the rug. Let's not talk about it. You guys, meaning War Room Sports, you guys are race baiters, or you guys are always having conversations and making it about race. Dude,
I hear it all the time.
We're not past it, and this is evident. And before the counter to that is going to be, well, Mr. Sterling is an old guy. He's from an older generation, and you know what? That's a valid point. But here's a problem and the flaw in that logic. He has economic viability. He's a billionaire who is a part of one of the largest, most popular sports in the world, and he has a voice. He has a voice where even the smallest of his insignificant or seemingly insignificant conversations, when it hits the masses, these are his feelings, and now it's going global, it's going viral. Now we have to have this dialogue. We have to have this dialogue under uncomfortable circumstances because we refuse to have it any other time. So now, here we are. Donald Sterling lets his feelings be known. Mr. Bundy lets his feelings be known. And now we've got a large contingent of white folks and black folks who will say, well, we're past it. They're just relics. Let's not talk about it. They're just relics. Nah, dog. Trayvon Martin shows you that they're not relics. So here we are.
Yeah,
I got a lot more to say, but Devin, go ahead.
No, since you guys brought up what you thought about first, when you heard this stuff, like Jimmy's first thought went to David Stern because he's basically out of fire. My first thought actually went to Adam Silver, remember we wanted to actually do this video about 12 hours ago, 15 hours ago, but we couldn't because at the time we hadn't really heard from Silver yet. All the pressure was coming from every outlet saying, the NBA has to do something. We heard from Magic Johnson since his name was brought up. I was watching Twitter. It kind of seems like Magic was kind of pressured into saying something because people kept saying, you got to speak because he said your name. So Magic made his statement that he'd never attend a Clippers game again as long as Donald Sterling was the owner. I'm not sure if I've ever seen Magic at one, but
not like Magic is doing the right thing, although he's being a little safe. I think he's been a little safe, but he's doing the right thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, he definitely. Because that's where the biggest impact will come from anyway. And I'll let you guys know where I'm going with that train of thought after I say this, because when it comes down, the pressure automatically goes to the players and
what are black people going to do?
Yeah, especially on the Clippers. They're in the midst of a championship run, and a lot of people are expecting them to be, Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali. They should boycott this and that.
Yeah, no.
I'm not saying if they did end up doing that it wouldn't be honorable, but at the same time, in today's society in 2014, NBA players, you can't really expect them to do that. So the pressure is put on them. The pressure is put on Doc Rivers for them to act. But at the same time, I think the people, meaning us, the fans, and
the media,
have the biggest say in this whole thing. Because if we stop going to the games, there's nothing that Donald Sterling can really do. Like, these guys are contractually obligated to play the game. Like I said, you can still decide that this contract doesn't mean shit.
Let me piggyback off what you just said, because I just wrote this exact same thing in one of our Facebook groups, which is the WRS Operation Battle Rap group.
What?
This thing has like went to all our groups. We're talking about
groups.
Donald Sterling in our hip hop group. But with that being said, I wrote the same thing you said. I said everybody wants the players to take a stand and be Muhammad Ali. I says, and I understand that, and I do think it would make a difference. But at the end of the day, this is a completely different situation. I believe how you make change in 2014 is through economics.
Economic viability.
Shout out to Dr. Claude Anderson. I read the book Powernomics, and I learned a lot in that book. But one of the things I would like to say is the power is always in the people, and the people, not the players, but the actual fans. Right. How big of a statement would it be at the next Clippers home game in the playoffs? The arena was completely empty. There's nobody paying for parking. There's nobody supporting concessions.
Merchandising.
Yeah. What kind of message would that send as opposed to having a, now not saying that the players couldn't sit out and make a statement, because that still would be a statement. I mean, they could make a statement by putting a black piece of tape over the Clippers logo. There's a lot of things that can be done.
I mean, that would be a great statement.
That would be hot.
Game 5, since it's televised on a Sunday.
That would be hot.
I'm just saying there's a lot of things they can do, but I believe in economics personally. But go ahead, Beyonce.
Three things that come out of this, and that's why, as I always say, and it's becoming cliche, Dev's gonna get me. Yo, you cannot go last around you brothers, man. Yo, Jimmy got everything out, and I was like, damn. But
that's what she said.
Y'all know we gotta have fun.
Yo, it's all. Yo, we can laugh at anything. I believe that whatever statement as men, these young black men, and you know what, I'm not going to limit it to black men. I'm going to say these young men on the Clippers.
Shout out to J.J. Redick.
Yo, shout out to J.J. Redick, who is one of my favorite white boys in the association. Whatever they decide, whatever steps they decide to take, if they get together and say, through a show of solidarity, the stand that we're going to make is we are going to boycott and we're not going to play. I support their conviction. I support their willingness to do that, and I understand where they're going with it. And so I respect it. But if they do decide to play, I respect that as well. And I know that sounds kind of contradictory, but here's my logic. Just as you gentlemen have stated, we are in a different day and age, and a different day and time. Shout out to Brother John Carlos and what those brothers did during the Olympics in 1968. The money today and the economic viability is different. It's completely different. We have a players roster that represents over $60 million annually right there. That's something to be thought about. You can't just say, you know what, I'm not going to play, because two things could come out of that. Number one, it can void their contracts, which is a sacrifice that they may be willing to make, but I understand if they're not willing to give up millions and millions of dollars. And number two, it gives Donald Sterling a leg to stand on in arbitration if this thing goes down the road where the NBA decides, and Adam Silver and the Players Association decide to really go after him and take the franchise away from him. He has a leg to stand on when he says, well, my employees who were under contract decided not to work and not to perform. So now you have a non-performance situation under a contract, which gives him a whole lot of legal backing on $60-some-odd million that he's paying out. So you have to be very careful with the stand that you want to take. The other thing is, understand that players, while some play for ownership, there's a piece of them, more than likely they play, number one, for the money they're being paid, for the love of the game, for the players on their teammates to the left and the right of them, and for the fans. So in the order of priority as to importance of what a player is playing for, ownership usually is at the bottom of that totem pole. So, there are plenty of players that love the city they play in, love the fans, love their teammates, but don't get along with management or don't get along with ownership. So I wouldn't be mad at these guys if they decide not to boycott. I'm not mad at that decision. If they do, it's a hell of a ballsy decision to say, you know what, I'm going to risk my salary because I believe so strongly in this that I'm not going to play in the playoffs. That's a hell of a statement, but I'm not mad at them if they don't make it. I would prefer, and Chris Paul has already come out and stated that the Players Union is going to pursue this aggressively. I respect them if they get together and they make a power move without Adam Silver to get Donald Sterling up out of there. Get him up out of there. That has more impact.
But that's still like a difficult task because, like I said, even if we're pursuing the path of trying to get the team, taken from it. First of all, this is America. It's very difficult to
Wouldn't it be
take
amazing
somebody's business from them.
I know. Wouldn't it be amazing if Magic ended up with the team?
I still think that the people, the paying public, would still have more say in Donald Sterling being pressured to relinquish, ownership.
I agree. I definitely agree.
And it's ironic, because Chris Paul is the head of the Players Association now. So it's ironic that, it's the owner of his franchise that does this, that puts a whole lot of pressure on him, as the leader of the Players Association, to go out and make a stand. Statements have been coming out from, a lot of players, former, current coaches, current players. Magic, we heard what he said. DeAndre Jordan made a little statement on his Instagram feed yesterday that Jimmy hit me to, where he basically just put a picture. It was just a blacked out photo, and his fans basically just interpreted it as they would and had their own conversation about it. Doc Rivers basically came out to say, we're going to play. We can't let anything, even, stupid comments by our owner, derail what we're trying to do here. So we're playing for each other, kind of what you alluded to a minute ago, BLS, and like ownership is not really who these guys are rallying behind anyway to play. Steven Jackson, former player, he played for the Clippers at one point, said unequivocally he wouldn't play in Game 5. That's a strong statement, but somebody like Steven Jackson.
It's also easy to say when you ain't playing too, though.
Yo, they cut you
playing in Game 5. You're not playing in Game 5. So it's no different. But like I said, we waited for the statement from Adam Silver. He basically said the same thing that Chris Paul said about the Players Association, but he just took that to say it about the league, saying we're going to aggressively investigate this thing. He said we have to give him due process as we would any player, coach, or anybody else in the league who committed such an act or any other act. So he didn't come out hyper trying to put on a show because he's the new commissioner, and it seems like he's taking a cool-headed approach to everything,
as he should.
Yeah, and I commend him for that. Like I don't think he said much of anything, but I'm glad he didn't force putting on a show. And we even got a statement from Barack Obama on this whole thing. So it's like you guys said, he has the type of power where he says something like this, it goes viral.
Yeah. It's amazing how like we look to the president to speak about anything racial. Like I can't remember any other president that had to make a statement on anything involving race.
They wouldn't have asked anybody.
Yeah, no other president has that history of background. The funny thing with all of this with me, and here's where it's going to get a little controversial from my end. So brothers, I'm not asking you to go here with me, but the white man's got a God complex. The white man's got a God. Shout out to Gil Scott Heron. And what I mean by that, and it's evidenced even with my acquaintances who I would say as white men are not racist. They don't necessarily have a conscious racist bone in their body. But when we have these dialogues and you hit me with, I'm tired of hearing how everything relates to race. I'm tired of hearing about, the whole black and white thing.
What do you say to black men that tell you that? Because I hear a lot of black men who say that.
Hey, it's Stockholm Syndrome, brother.
Listen, I had someone.
Whoa, Jimmy, Stockholm Syndrome, brother.
Listen, I had someone literally tell me yesterday that they tried to say that, we blame race for stuff too much. We talk about it too much. Let's leave this alone. And how can the white man ever take us serious if we keep bringing up race? They actually said that to me. My thing is, why are you still looking for the white man's approval?
Yeah,
but that's a whole other
There's validity in that point. But where I was going with it is they believe that they can dictate the terms of the dialogue on race in this country. So because you're tired of hearing about it, you want to move on from it. You don't want to acknowledge the fact that race relations is still an issue here. You don't want to acknowledge that by design, we have an institution within this country and a system that benefits certain groups while detracting from others. You don't want to have that conversation. You want to sweep it under the rug, keep it moving up towards the Kumbaya hill and the Kumbaya tree. And when we do that, that's why things like this happen. So we have to have that uncomfortable dialogue. Listen, there are plenty of brothers and black men that I have the conversation with. Look, accountability, responsibility, and acknowledgement comes to y'all because you can't behave like a victim. You can't act like it's all the white man's fault. You have to take responsibility for your own success, take responsibility for your own communities, your own families, and you have to work towards being a better human being. You can't say that because I shot that needle in my vein, just a loose example, that it's the white man's fault because drugs came into the community. Nah, you had a choice. You had a choice. But now we're not having that discussion at that level. We are pointing towards the system and the power structure. That's
why I can understand from that standpoint and people that we talk to every day why you said to Jimmy, like the person he was talking to, they have a valid point. I don't necessarily think that person was making the point from a state of validity because of course we come across people every day who might take the whole race baiting thing way too far. Like every single thing we talk about inside of sports, like race is brought up even when it probably doesn't need to. But as Jimmy said, for you to think that, for your reason to think that too many people are pulling the race card, if your reason is how are they going to respect us, then you've already started off your statement wrong. Because even if I think that there's some brothers out there who pull the race card a little too much, because I do, I'm going to be honest with everybody. There's
Absolutely.
People who pull the race card too much, but my reasoning to them is not because, well, if you keep pulling it, then they're not going to respect us. Like that's not why I'm saying that.
Right.
Anyway,
you're calling those brothers to accountability for
it's an accountability thing. Yeah. It's not to please anybody else.
No, and the thing is, like we always say in all of our videos, like don't accept mediocrity. So the thing is, don't use that as an excuse, and I agree completely with that. Right. But I have people that tell me, I don't see race, I don't see color. Like first off, whether you're black, white, you're lying.
That's bullshit.
Listen, let me tell you that. Let's be honest. Let's be honest here. We all see race, we all see color, we all see differences, and to a certain extent, we all prejudge people. The difference the difference is, what do you do with that information? My thing is, we all are different, whether it be race, whether it be sexual orientation. But let's embrace each other's differences as opposed to being negative because we are different. But don't sit here and tell me you don't see race. I don't see color. FOH, yes you do. We all do. That's BS. And with that being said, like Dev said, I also had some thoughts that came to mind, which may not be PC, but it's the truth. I was thinking, like, he had this reaction to Magic Johnson, right? And we all know that you have some – listen, we have safe N-words that, some people, whether they're racist or not, like, they get a pass. You know what I mean? Like, and you would assume that Magic's one of them. I was thinking, like, if he had this reaction to Magic Johnson, what if she had a picture with, like, Chief Keef or, like, Lil Durk or something? Like, if Magic can't get it past, like, I know that's not a PC thing to say, but I did think about that.
Jimmy, you went to the extreme because now you throwing black folks out there that we view as
no, but that's my point.
But I view them as animals. All
right. But I'm just saying, though, like, if Magic can't get it past, like, damn, that's the one. So the second thing I thought was
Jimmy, you know what? Magic is more threatening than them, because Magic can actually go dollar for dollar with dollar.
Yeah, economic standpoint, yes. But listen, I was also thinking, like, all right, well, Magic can't get it past. Next thing I was thinking is, her yams must be amazing, because this man said, listen, you can do whatever you want to do. You can sleep with them. Just don't bring them around.
Listen,
listen, does he know what Magic's walking around with to say you can go sleep with him?
No. Listen, Jimmy, I'm not letting her off the hook because we're going to get to her. And
I wish I could change my color for you.
Listen. The young lady is a black woman who is dating a reputed racist. She's a black and Mexican woman, so I'm pretty sure. Listen.
Not to mention she got to be like 40 years younger than dude.
Listen, Mexican folks. I know, from a race standpoint in this country, we don't always get along. But listen, if Donald Sterling feels that way about us, he feels that way about y'all. So from both sides of her family tree, he don't like what she's coming to the table with, other than the way she looks. And I'm glad. I'm not going to say I'm glad, but I like the fact that this comes to the open to show people that just because a white person will date you, will sample your yams, does not mean that they are not racist and do not demean your culture and ethnicity. She's
Shout out
a
to Olivia
beautiful.
Pope.
Yo, Olivia Pope, yes. Sally Hemings in the house. She's a beautiful woman, so he's with it, but he doesn't respect where she comes from or what she's about, and
He wants her.
He doesn't respect
to live
herself.
her life as a white woman.
So the point,
Yeah, he
You
basically
can
said
basically
that.
get that from his dialogue.
We're
He wants
taking
her
it-
to live as a white woman.
so this goes back to the plantation, the house Negro versus the field Negro. She's a house Negro. She can go in the house with Donald Sterling, but she can pass. So he's cool. He's cool with that, and wants her to be cool with it. And to an extent, she is cool with it because she knows this man's history. You know what I'm saying? She knows what's up.
Well, and then another part of this that came out is that the Sterling family, because in the Clippers statement, you know, they're the ones who started this dialogue of, well, we have to authenticate the tape. We have to make sure it's him. Because everybody's using that quote now. Well, after it's authenticated. But
Shout out to Shaggy, yo. 1 minute.
so the Clippers organization came out with their statement saying, you know, that emphatically the dialogue expressed in this video, in this audio recording, is not how Donald Sterling thinks. So we have to authenticate it and make sure that it's him. And that all sounds stupid, but at the same time, like when you dig deep into the whole audio in the first place, like it sounded really childish to me. Like let me let you guys know where I'm going with this. To me, when you look at the comments, they seem much worse when you read the transcript
Then when you listen,
versus when you listen to the transcript, because when you listen to the transcript, I guess people just associate money with confidence. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there whose confidence comes from money, which means they're not really confident people in the first place.
Mhm.
But this guy, when you listen to him speak and the way he said a lot of this stuff, it seems like first of all, he lacks a little bit in the confidence.
Of course he
department.
does.
It seems like, it just doesn't seem like this is some prestigious billionaire talking. He seemed like a little kid, you know, just
Listen,
upset because somebody took his toy.
I'm gonna generalize here because I'm sure that not all old rich white guys or just old rich guys in that vein are. I don't think they all lack confidence.
No.
But for the most part, if you're that old and you're trying to bag 20-somethings and 30-somethings, like, why aren't you bagging a thorough chick on your own level?
Yo, first of all,
you're just buying human beings. Like, at this point, the only thing you have, the only thing, like, you look at her, you really
I feed them. I give them houses and cars
and clothes, so she's just another one of your slaves anyway.
yo,
Like, that's what
my
that
thing
is.
is this. Though. Donald Sterling learned the hard way, yo. These hoes ain't loyal. But listen though,
this is a setup.
here's something that I thought about, and I think it's one of the things that disturbed me the most about this whole thing, is he kept saying people calling me and telling. Who are the people calling you and saying, yo, she's in the picture with a black guy? Like, who are these people that are calling you? Who's in his inner circle that, like, that's their problem? Not only does he have a problem,
The Confederate Army.
yeah, like, who is it that's calling him? Like, yo, she's up there with another one.
Riley Cooper.
She up there with another one. Like,
You
what,
got the
what
call
is
from
that?
Riley. I got the call from Riley. Listen, man, but because I forgot where I was going with the whole Clipper organization statement. They also said in their statement that the Sterling family had a suit against this young lady because she embezzled more than $1.8 million from Donald Sterling. So they're probably trying to put that out there just so we would have sitting in the back of our minds that this is some kind of setup. But setup or not, these were his words, these were his thoughts. So.
Absolutely, man. In the words of a great prophet, Axel Foley, man, you fell for the banana in the tailpipe. Like, even if you were getting set up, yo, you fell for it, B. Like, and that's another thing, B. Also, you talk about someone who's a billionaire, you know, older gentleman. Like, how do you fall for this? Like, you have to have, you know, people been trying to get at you for this long, and now you're going to fall to the hands of a hooer.
And that's why I keep saying that this conversation sounded so childish, and I'm talking on both sides because if you didn't know that these little stupid questions that she kept asking you weren't trying, if you didn't know she was trying to bait you into talking how you probably usually speak around her, then you're silly. To me, it seemed like a sitcom where, some comedian has a wire under his shirt and he's all obvious trying to get somebody to say something. That's how it sounded to me. I was just watching an episode of Sanford and Son where he had the wire and he all up in the dude's face with the wire.
But
that's how it sounded to me.
And that right there is how you know the Yams were amazing, because he didn't even catch on to what was going on. The fact that you fought for that, you deserve everything coming to you, because here's something else with this whole situation. His entire legacy is tarnished no matter what happens. He is going down in the history books as a racist.
He's a Clippers owner.
He's next to making a loser and a racist.
He didn't have much of a legacy.
Yeah, your legacy is a loser and a racist. Like, all your NAACP awards don't mean anything, because in the eyes of the general public, you stand next to Mark Schott, and now you guys will go down in history together.
You're Prescott Marshall, like.
And fellas,
Jimmy the Greek, Riley Cooper.
Something that we didn't address when we were talking about the pressure that it put on other entities, such as the players in the NBA. When we look at the NBA, and this was something because Jimmy said the first person he thought about was David Stern. David Stern definitely is dodging a bullet, because he was the leader of the NBA when somebody,
Chris Paul.
Yeah, when somebody who has a history, of allegations that have a lot to do with racist attitudes, they basically made his franchise viable by disallowing the Chris Paul to Los Angeles Lakers move, sending him to the Clippers. So it's like people sit back and think like, well, this isn't the first time Donald Sterling had any kind of ripples in the area of racism, and the league basically took one of the best players in the league, away from the Los Angeles Lakers and pushed him to the Los Angeles Clippers, making Donald Sterling's franchise even more viable than it already was, because face it, he was already making money hand over fist. But
David Stern is chilling right now.
Now the Clippers are viewed as,
it's funny. It's funny, Dev, because that's one thing I thought of that I mean, we know how good the Clippers have been the last couple seasons, but it didn't really hit me till this came up when I started thinking about it. Like, outside of Raymond and maybe Durant, they have like the two most marketed players in the entire league. Because when I was talking to some of my friends who don't even follow sports, but they know what's going on with this story, this is how big the story is. You have people that don't even watch sports. Like, when they were hitting me up, asking me about it, and they were like, well, who plays for the Clippers? And I'm like, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and also Cliff Paul. Like, and they know who they are. They know who they are because of how heavily marketed they are. So it hit me like, damn, the Clippers really have.
They got superstars. They got my man Jamal Crawford.
Shoot, the last ESPN commercial I saw had DeAndre Jordan in it.
Be awesome. His name didn't come up, though.
In it, Even he getting some play on the marketing tip.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, look at they're what the Lakers used to be in terms of marketing. The Lakers now got Swaggy P, and they got all the star power. But it is what it is, man.
All right, so I don't want us to ramble on all day. So like, we have to basically guess right now. But where do you guys see this situation going?
Here's the thing.
There's no precedent.
There really is no precedent, and the thing about it is, maybe I'm being pessimistic. Mark Schott is, but that's baseball. It's a little different.
This is a black sport. This is a predominantly black sport.
And shout out to Michael Wilbon, because he said something this morning that I kind of agree with. He said, in the black community, we got church and basketball. Those are our two religions, like the Baptist church and basketball, because we jokingly call basketball the Costa Nostra in the war room. It's this thing of ours. We love hoops more than any other sport.
Hallelujah.
So it is a big thing. This is basketball, and this is considered an African-American sport. But with that being said, money is involved. When guys have money, anything could happen. And maybe you call me ignorant or say that, but I'm pessimistic, but I wouldn't be shocked if nothing happened. Maybe a suspension of some sort.
I wouldn't call you ignorant. I would maybe pessimistic, but definitely not ignorant.
But I think that there's a lot of pressure right now coming from all over the place to do something, and I think it'll be like something in the middle. I don't think it will go as far as to take the team from him, and I don't think that nothing at all will happen. It'll be somewhere in the middle, so there's some sort of compromise, you pay a fine and you sit out the rest of the playoffs.
Even if you fine an owner and you suspend an owner, basically, what are you suspending him from? Like, he's going to get his checks. So what are you really suspending an
Now,
owner from?
what happens to the organization from the standpoint of when these players' contracts are up or trying to recruit other free
There you
agents?
go. Yeah.
But
Jimmy, all that'll mean is they'll go back to being the Clippers.
Yo,
yeah, that's true too.
Fans still gonna come.
Donald Sterling is worth $2.2 billion. So as you guys have said, suspending him from the game, you can't sit in the luxury box.
Yeah.
Okay, and
He made money when
you
when
can't.
He
they
made
were
money
like
when they weren't getting players to sign there.
Yo, they were a top 10 franchise when they had my man. Name somebody playing for him.
Michael Olowokandi.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but look,
they
they got the draft picks. The thing was their ability to hold on to these guys after their rookie deal was up. So
Right.
they've always had some young names on the squad.
Lamar
but now
Odom.
it's a different thing because you're actually getting free agents to come to Clipperland. And I think Jimmy just made a great point. It probably will affect. It has to, because how big of a sellout are you going to look? Are your peers going to look at you as if you go to the Clippers franchise as a free agent after this? So I think the pressure would be on in that way. But Jimmy, like we said earlier in the broadcast, the only way that it's going to pressure Donald Sterling into possibly selling the team is the people. If that arena's empty, I mean,
The power is in the people.
Clipper Darrell already came home to the Lakers. He had on the Lakers gear the other day. So Clipper Darrell's gone, but how many people are going to follow him? That's the question.
Rest in peace, Huey Newton. Yo, the power is in the people, man. That's where you make the difference. It always comes back to economics in 2014. If they stop supporting.
Yo, and we don't understand the power. We don't understand the power that we have as people, or on the other side of that, we're apathetic because, again, in a society where we're bombarded by sensational things happening, how much of this is just the latest and greatest thing to tickle our fancy, and it'll disappear when the next big thing comes along because we're not going to pay attention to it. Cats aren't out there banging for Trayvon Martin anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, things disappear. This isn't going to affect the average human being's daily lives. So you're right, Jimmy. There's a strong possibility he could get a smack on the wrist. I mean, he'll pay a fine.
Hard to take a man's business from
it'll blow. Yeah, you're right.
You're right.
Being a racist is not illegal.
Absolutely.
To all, listen to all you black people saying that these guys, these players should sit. And I know there's some white folks out there saying that as well, but it's mainly you black folks. Dude, contract non-performance. It's not illegal to be racist in this country.
But be also, I understand that, but I think that what some people are saying is, they want them to be willing to risk that. And the thing is, and the people that are saying that probably wouldn't be willing to risk it themselves. But it's easy to push that off onto somebody else.
I would love for them to take that stand and explain that stand to people. I would so respect it. But I'm not mad at 12 guys not being willing to give up $62 million. And so if they do, I believe, to Dev's point, it's going to be hard as it is to wrest a man's franchise and business away from him. That contract non-performance by the players would be something he would go to court.
Yeah, and B. Austin, I just finished reading the Bill Russell book, and him and his teammates took a stand where they went to play, and they had colors only this, and they couldn't stay in the rooms with their teammates or what have you. So they threatened to boycott the game, right? So they did it several times. But the thing is, that was a different climate. So look to these players in 2014 and make them the same type of statement with the same kind of action is a little bit different.
More money involved.
There's a whole lot more money involved.
Turn the jerseys inside out.
There's a whole lot more money involved, and also they were playing in a climate back then that if the black players didn't show up, a lot of they probably would have filled the stands with white folks. Like, okay, we got our game back. But anyway, so it's a little different, man. Like, but at the end of the day, I think that if the people stop supporting the Clippers, because let's face it, the Clippers are a popping team right now. I mean, look at all the free agents that came to sign with the Clippers that could have went anywhere else. A lot of the chip chasers. I wonder what Matt Barnes really thinks. That's who I want to release a statement, because if he really speaks his mind, he'll go in.
He will say anything.
Too much bread, though.
I agree with you on the whole. If they did it, very honorable thing. But I like we all just I keep saying the same thing. But in this climate, I don't really expect it. So I'm not going to sit here and Jim Brown these dudes and prejudge them for what they're not doing in today's climate. Because look at the whole situation at Grambling. Like, a lot of people hail them. I mean, they got a lot of backlash, of course, when they boycotted that game against Jackson State. But a lot of people, especially, in the black community, people who wanted them to step up and stand up for themselves, hailed them as heroes. And truthfully, that wasn't even a unified thing, because 22 players still showed up for the game. They just didn't have enough for them to take to the, to Jackson State and actually play. So it's going to be, I mean, a basketball team, there's less people. So if you were going to do something, it will probably be a little easier to unify them than football. But this is difficult to ask these guys to do.
What if Chris Cliff and Blake decided not to play? What if it's just those guys? Because that makes a huge difference too. You don't even need the whole team to show up.
Yeah, if they don't show up, it's a wrap.
They don't show up, it's a wrap anyway.
It's definitely a wrap.
Blake only half mad though, so it's all good.
All right, man, we go.
Not mad at all.
We're gonna end it on that. And the words of my man Bill Duke, Donald Sterling. No, you done fucked that right. All right, look, everybody, make sure, as usual, first of all, just follow us. Make sure you follow the channel, because
everywhere.
When everything comes out, we're a voice. We're gonna give our opinion somewhere, either here on War Room Sports TV, on our podcast, The War Room, which is on the War Room Sports Podcast Network. Just go to our website, warroomsports.com. Browse around, because you're going to find all of our different mediums, and we touch on everything on all of our different channels. But while you're here, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section right after you like the video. But leave a comment in the comment section. Let us know your thoughts on the whole Donald Sterling situation, what you think is going to happen from this point on. Will he remain the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers when the dust settles and all said and done? Fellas, for B. Austin and Jimmy, I'm Devin. Like we always tell you guys, don't accept mediocrity and be steadfast in your war against ignorance. And this is definitely a part of that war against ignorance.
Yeah. See you chumps on top. We out of here, yo.
Kuwait is the war